Now in this lecture we want to create a loop and print all of these values in here. As we saw previously in the previous lecture, we said b with the index of 0 and we were able to print the first element, but now we want to print all of the elements in here. So what we say is that we create a loop like a for loop, and we say for int. First we create a, so what we have in our mind, actually let me tell you in this way. I want to cut this line and paste it in here. Instead of b0, I want to say b a variable like I in here, and then just change this I from 0 to 4, which would be the last element in the array, so that we would have all the elements printed on the screen. So we create a loop. We say for, we create a variable, name it I, and put it in here. For I is equal to 0, I want you to print this value, right? But then I want this process to goes on until it reaches the size of the array, which in this case is 5. The length of the array is 5, right? Even though we have provided only 4 elements, but in here we said the size would be 5. And also then after we have printed the first one, I want to increase I by 1 so that the I would be equal to 1 and the second element in the array would get printed. Now I put this printf inside this for loop so that all the elements would be printed on the screen. Let's see if we have any errors. So I save it and we compile it and execute it, and as we saw we have all the values. Let me just get rid of or just let me say, for example, in here write something like, let's say, another %d and a colon in here. So, and I want to provide two things. So I want to provide I and bi. What I have done in here is that I say look at the first argument and print it as a decimal. So first I is 0 would be printed, then we have a colon in here, then look at the second argument, which is b with the index of I, and print that also as a decimal value so that we would know which element, we would know the index of each element too. So I save it, I exit, compile it again and run it, and now it says the index of 0 is 2. The element in the index of 0 is 2. The element in the index of 1 is 101. Also let me open the file in here in another terminal. Then well, you see the second element is 0x65, right? If I open a Python shell and say int of 65 with the base of 16 and convert it to the base of 10, we would see 101. The third element is 100. If we look at the source code, well, the third element is the D character, right? So if I say and again on terminal, if I say man ASCII in here, look at the decimal is in here, look at the 100, you see the value of 100 is equivalent to the character of D. So in the C you provided the character of D, but in here we said I want the compiler to print it as a base 10 or decimal value, therefore we got 100 in here. The element at the index of 3 is equal to 65, which is 65 in the decimal, and then the last element, so you see these two things are different. For this we had 100, for this we had 65. And for the last element, because, well, the length of the array is 5, right, and we haven't give any value for the last element, but it has been initialized to 0. So when we declare an array, all the values would be initialized to 0 unless we specify the exact value that we want. But let's say, what if we didn't have the size of the array? If we didn't have it, if you look, the size, this print caused the printing of 5, which is the length of each of the element in here, and the 4, sorry, the size of each element, you saw that it is 4 bytes, and 5 times 4 would be equal to 20. What it means is that if we divide this one, which is 20 bytes, by this one, which is the size of each element is 4 bytes, you would get 5, which is the length of the array. So we could always say, instead of saying it statically, we could always say size of all of the array divided by size of the length of one of the elements. It doesn't matter if it is at the index 0, 1, 2 or anything else. In this case the same thing would happen. You wouldn't you wouldn't see any difference in here. Compile it and run it, and as you see we have all the values printed on the screen.